So, of all these sections that we cover, it will all relate to this. Solve a right triangle. So in our first example, it says find the missing sides and angles. So we have two variables for sides. So that means that we're going to do two types of work. And then we also have to find our missing angle measurement. So if I were to list out the information that we know, so the one thing for sure we do know is that angle X is 35 degrees, angle Z is 90, but angle Y we don't know. And then since that's Z, that's Y, the side Y is 10, but the side of Z we don't know, and then the side of X we don't know. So again, all the section that we covered previously will all come down to this. So there's going to be two types of work, or actually three. Two for the sides, one for the angle. So let's focus on the side. If we want to do X first, we're going to look at 35 degrees. So if I look, X is the opposite of 35 degrees. So I'm going to use angle 35 degrees, and I'm writing small to save space. So angle 35 degrees, opposite is X, which we don't know, and then the one that's next to angle is the 10, so it's going to be adjacent. So adjacent will be 10. So if I was to set this up, one good trig function that use opposite and adjacent is tangent and cotangent. Now, since my opposite is X, if it's going to be a fraction, a ratio, I would prefer that X would be on the numerator. So the one trig function that use opposite as a numerator is tangent. So tangent theta equals opposite over adjacent. So it's going to be tangent or tan of 35 degrees equal X over 10. And then next, I will multiply both sides by 10. So doing so, I'm going to have tan times tangent of 35 degrees equals to X. So that's what you're going to type in to find the measurement of X. Now, we still got to do the Y. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a different color. So if I were to look at this one, we see that between 35, we're looking for Z and 10. So if we look, we know that 10 is adjacent to 35. So therefore, this one, even though it's adjacent next to 35, the Z, we see that the Z is across the right angle, so the Z is the hypotenuse. So I'm going to write down the information here, just like before. So angle is 35 degrees. Here we have adjacent. Which is 10. Then we have hypotenuse, which is z. So, using this information, the trig function that use adjacent and hypotenuse would be cosine and secant. Now, hypotenuse is the unknown variable. So what we want to do is use the one where hypotenuse, or the z, is the numerator. And the only trig function that has that is secant. So, since I'm little space, I'm going to write it right here. So secant theta is hypotenuse over adjacent. So over here, I would write secant of 35 degrees equal z over 10. And just like before, I would multiply both sides by 10 so that I'm isolate z by itself. So what it's going to look like is going to be 10 secant 35 degrees equal to z. Alright, so let's find the side measurements. First one is 10 times tangent of 35 equals x. Alright, first, again, anytime we do any calculator work, always check for degree mode. So I'm going to go back to my documents, since I'm using this calculator. Oops, not quite. Let me go back to home. I meant to go settings, document settings. Alright, good. I'm at degree mode, so I can escape, calculate. Alright, so our first one is 10 times tangent of 35 degrees. So what I'm going to do, first I'm going to hit 10, hit trig, select tangent, and then put 35, exit out of the parenthesis, hit control, enter. So it's 7.00208. If I was to round that up, it would be 7. So x we equal to 7. Now let's do 10 secant of 35 for z. So going back to the calculator, I'm going to hit 10 trig, I'm going to go to secant, then type in 35 degrees, exit parenthesis, hit control, enter. It's 12.2077, so if I were to round, so it's going to be approximately 12.2. So z is approximately 12.2. So that is our side measurement. Let me box that up. Now we found our two measurements. Next is the side measurement. Let's find the angle measurement, angle y. Now, from basic geometry, any given triangle, all angles add up to 180. So we have 90 and 35. So let's do some small work for angle. So if we do 35 plus 90, that's going to equal to 125 degrees. So if we want to find angle y, the missing angle, again, all angles add up to 180, so we're going to subtract the total, which is 180 degrees minus 125 degrees. That is going to equal to 55 degrees. So angle y equals to 55 degrees. So that's our missing angle. Let me box that up. So we got our missing angle and we got our missing sides. Now when we're solving a right triangle, as you can see, I wrote two sets of information. We use two different functions, tangent and secant, so that we can have the variables as the numerator and easy to isolate and plug into a calculator. But right now, first we're going to practice on the setup, so that as long as the setup is correct, therefore what typed in should be the correct answer. But keep in mind, we need to make sure we're in the right mode. Since we're working with degrees, degree mode. Now in the event if you're working with radians, make sure you're in radians mode.